Hello, YouTube. Let me show you some interesting artifacts and somewhat recent discoveries that I attribute to ancient advanced civilizations we know very little about. I have presented some of my knowledge before, and today I want to show you more visual examples. You may not agree with me, but you should stay curious, and maybe we will find out more about our ancient history one day and learn who made those fascinating objects and what is it that some of them really depict. There are so many around the world. Let me start with the ones I have in this video. This very strange artifact from Ecuador is made of Lydian stone. It is an exceptionally hard stone, and its hardness is almost the same as that of granite. Pay attention to the chair, please. The age of the statue is estimated to be 6,000 years. Very interesting humanoid person. Reminds me of an astronaut. In the Tretyakov Gallery in Russia, there is an Eastern Christian Orthodox icon of the 16th century, which depicts a mysterious rocket, and it exactly corresponds to modern rockets, and even traces of burning fuel are visible. You should compare with the photo of the launch of a modern rocket. So I don't know who was aboard that rocket ship, maybe the same person from Ecuador that I showed you before. Now look at the mysterious ancient Egyptian artifact. Scientists claim that this is an alabaster table for offerings. This table for offerings allegedly has a hieroglyph denoting the offering as well as a list of all offerings. There are shallow openings for incense, oil, and other valuable offerings. At the same time, scientists cannot generally date this artifact. It's in the Leiden Museum of Antiquities. To me, it looks something like a control console. Well, maybe aboard the same rocket I just mentioned before. Now, look at a drawing on the wall of the cave Perche-Merle near La Cabrera in France. 17,000 years BC. It's a very interesting depiction of various moving craft and a curious human being. At the same time as the figurine from Ecuador was made 6,000 years ago, same age, made in the same age, granaries were discovered in China. Ancient granaries were discovered in the ruins of Huangshan. Chinese archaeologists have discovered a cluster of 16 ancient granaries belonging to the middle of the late Yangshao culture, an Neolithic culture that arose 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. The total area of excavations in Huangshan reached 2,700 square meters. But then we travel on and we look at the clay tablet from Hafaji. It's a Sumerian tablet. There's a fight of swords between a Sumerian person and a humanoid creature. Look at its head. I saw similar depictions in ancient petroglyphs of Central Asia. The sun head, very interesting. Well, then you look at an ancient petroglyphs in the National Nature Reserve at Airi and Tener in Niger. Very interesting female person with a purse similar to those you have seen, I'm sure, in artifacts from other ancient civilizations and the beings that existed then. But then we'll move on and we'll look at these Native American petroglyphs at a world-renowned place, and it's at the Navajo Formation Sandstone Cliffs. You can find similar objects in the ancient Middle East. So we're moving from one continent to another. But then from North America, we're going down to South America, and we look at the ancient statue. It depicts a human being in a space suit. I find no other explanation. I don't have much more information about it. But then I look at the stunning ancient gold statues from Colombia at the Museum del Oro in Bogota, Colombia, and it represents the largest, one of the most important collections of pre-Hispanic metallurgy in the world. The museum altogether has a stunning collection of over 55,000 artifacts made of silver, copper, platinum, and especially gold. Very interesting statue. To me, it looks like another astronaut. But then we come to Brazil. I have been saying all along, Brazil has so many mysteries. I stayed there for a short time with lectures and hoping to find more about their ancient astronaut hypothesis based on Soviet research. Well, what you see there is the ancient astronaut from 1000 years BC. It was the culture of Morocco, Brazil. But there is something equally as interesting to me. This is a strangely shaped statuette, called what you want from Brazil, dating back to 5000 BC from Sambaquin culture at the Museum of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. Actually, I believe the age is 500 BC, but I'm not sure exactly. I need to do more research on it. To me, it's especially interesting because of my amazement at the USO phenomena around the world and my research. This is a depiction of stylized submarine made to look like a shark, I think. Who knows what ancient seafarers sailed, where they sailed it in the oceans of ancient Earth. Who knows? But I start remembering legends of the Yakut people of Russia's permafrost region and the metal or iron ships that they had observed thousands of years ago. And then there is this fascinating photo. So on the left is the god of the Nile in Egypt. On the right is the god, the feathered serpent in Mexico, the Olmec civilization. I think there are many mechanisms and are accompanied by similar looking serpents. And the one human, or whoever it is, that being in South America, has that strange purse. Now, let's look at something closer. Let's look at the pommels of maces that people in antiquity made to deliver striking blows to the armor and living flesh of enemies. Such a mace or a club had to withstand serious shock loads. As a rule, the pommel had a massive appearance and the blades or spikes were made pointed, which ensured the penetration of the opponent's protection or bones. I want to emphasize right away that we're talking about combat maces, which were used in practice, not the ritual ones. And now let's pay attention to the product that is signed in the museum catalog as the pommel of the mace made of gilded copper. It's in the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. Could anyone from the local Indian caciques, chiefs, imagine such a ritual cone-shaped pommel with dimensions 4.8 by 5.4 centimeters? It certainly does not resemble a solar disk. And if this mace is combat weapon, then who could be nailed with such a weapon? Perhaps only a weak, defenseless creature. The artifact looks geometrically regular in shape with a complex conical slope. All the blades are the same size. The whole is cylindrical and smooth. There are no noticeable errors anywhere in the manufacturing process. Perhaps only the notches look clumsy, as if they were applied, with measuring by eye, so to say. For me, such a product immediately caused an association with parts from a modern unit. If it was a part from a lost unit of a certain highly developed civilization, then most likely it did not play the role of a gear, since it lacks an important part, the involute profile that modern gears have. But it was almost ideally suited for the role of an impeller to a water pump or oil pump. Of course, this hypothesis is not final and can also have its weaknesses, such as the keyway is not noticeable, although the other side of the exhibit is not photographed for some reason. Incomprehensible figures on the shoulder blades, maybe something else. But the official hypothesis is not much better. However, the official hypothesis has one advantage, such Objects are sometimes used as a mace nowadays. Look at it. If these items had been found in China, then historians would have most likely have attributed them to the Han Dynasty or similar. Why? Well, because in China they knew the wheel, respectively, the use of the first primitive mechanisms was allowed. For example, a casting mold for a bronze ratchet wheel, China, 206 BC, 220 AD, can be cited. But the whole problem is that such products were found in South America, in Peru, and attributed to the so-called Andean civilizations with an official dating 300 BC to 300 AD, which means that such products simply cannot be gears in that region, but they may well be a mace, and they became it, according to the museum catalog. The main details of an ancient disappeared or vanished mechanism of a highly developed civilization have been found in Peru. However, to explain the difference between the gears of the same Middle Ages or the same Antikytherian mechanism of the ancient Greeks and the maces of the Indians, it's not easy. Moreover, in the clubs of the Indians, in addition to the teeth themselves, there are also such profound gear details as the hub of the recessed gear and spoke that reduce the weight of the gear, plus to extinguish the weighty vibration shock of the drive gear. That's a nuisance for the mace, isn't it? In addition, in one such ancient Peruvian mace, it shows a grooved profile in the form of a mesh, an obvious imitation from some vanished original. Maybe in the original it was not true cuts. Similar elements, rim, hub, recesses, spokes, are also present on modern gears. For example, gears for radio-controlled helicopter or for a bicycle. And since there are already several dozen such artifacts found in just only one museum, the Museum of Anthropology, Vancouver, Canada, then we can assume that in fact there should be even more of them. And as some believe, all these gears, let's call them by those things by their proper names, are only copies of some original parts of some ancient lost mechanism, the mechanism of that vanished civilization which the Indians themselves call gods. Most likely, initially, it was a set of interchangeable gears for adjusting the gear ratio of any mechanism. This is also hinted at by the absence of a keyway or other elements of fastening to the axis. In modern times, this is found, for example, in a lathe. The mesh is applied to control the quality of casting. That part really looks like a gear or a gear wheel. The shape of the tooth is characteristic of involute engagement. There is an opinion specifically, these are just copies and not very high quality. But we want to see the originals, of course. All the mechanisms are most likely either were destroyed many years ago or are lying around in the form of unidentified objects in the storerooms of museums. The originals must be quite many years old, if not thousands of years. But the copies are much newer. Moreover, this may be copies from copies. This is what a rich imagination you need to have in order to see a mace in the gear. There are the shape of the tooth, and the shape of the tooth is made according basically to a modern textbook. Some gears are really similar, but tooth pitch is not even. So such a gear could not work, according to experts. Most likely, the ancient ancestors saw the original and copied it as a talisman, something like that. Others believe the civilization that made them might not have been an ancient human one, but rather alien. There are simply no global signs of a technical civilization of this level. Well, we could argue about that, but still, another opinion is that the gears found were details of mechanisms that even Indians, ignorant of the principle of action, for them could use. But like any mechanism, it sooner or later failed, while the Indians tried to restore its workability to the best of their knowledge. Apparently, it did not work out. Then they began to use them as best they could. Something was adopted as a club, something or a mace, something as a religious worship object. These objects They were done by the ancients from some unknown advanced civilization, and that's why they copied it. And that's the mystery. Surely some person of that time was the first one to plant a prototype gear found on the rod. In combat skirmishes, his club proved to be very effective, and his tribesmen began to copy his new weapon. If we could find this prototype made on a machine, then we would have a sensation. So let's hope our archaeologists do that finding. Now let's jump from there on to Russia. Of what is Russia today. The Chutskia mines are traces of ancient gold mining, which was carried out by the mysterious Chut tribe, who once lived in the Urals and Siberia. And you can look through my videos, you'll find quite a lot about them. After the appearance of Christians there, the tribe disappeared, and according to legend, it relocated underground. I mean, under the ground, down below. Geologists and archaeologists at the beginning of the 20th century found many Chutskia mines, but almost all of them were later destroyed. However, one mine near the village of Borisovka in the Chelyabinsk region is well preserved. The age of this correct circle with a clear hole in the middle is at least 4,000 years old. And to finish this video, let's look, why not, at some interesting technical ideas from the more modern times, from the 15th century. I already told you about secrets of the 16th century we have yet to solve, including rocket ships. But this is 15th century. Illustration from Konrad Kieser's book Belli Fortis, the Royal Library of Copenhagen, year 1459. Belli Fortis is the first fully illustrated guide to military technology written by Konrad Kaiser. What was that force field around the strange-looking soldier or officer? I don't know. And human ingenuity never stopped. Look at the soldier in armor with a swimming belt. It's from a manuscript from 1496. He was trying, I guess they were trying to use military force underwater. Human imagination has no bounds. I'll bring you more interesting visuals in the future as well. Thank you for your attention to my work, and I hope you can support my research. You'll find the links on how to do it in the description to this video. I'll really appreciate it. And please tell others about my channel. Subscribe to it, like my videos. Thank you.